My name's Alex and I'm a former gifted kid making a follow-up video about the GATE program to a video I made a couple of weeks ago that has gained quite a bit of traction. And in that video, I was talking about my personal experience as a GATE kid and some of the theories that I thought were going on with the program and why we were potentially targeted. So a person commented on my video something along the lines of, I clicked on your video to learn more about your experience as a GATE kid, and all I heard was you talk about your sobriety after the first 4 minutes. And I wanted to say yes, because that's a very important point that I think a lot of people miss. And I think it's something that is worth talking about. It's actually a huge thing that's been overlooked. And I really hope you'll consider paying attention to the connection between sobriety, psychic gifts, and GATE children, and potential government experimentation. So let's get into it. First of all, in these programs, gifted kids are targeted. So gifted kids meaning we have natural psychic abilities or the ability to develop them. That's what experiences like sleepwalking, astral traveling, connections with ET, premonitions, etc., night terrors are all about. That's our connection to the spirit world. So the running theory about the GATE program is that it was somehow connected to the Stargate program, which I don't know too much about, so I'll have to look into that more on my own or watch other videos about it. But it's also connected to the Gateway tapes, which were tapes made for the CIA during the Cold War to train people to have and control outer body experiences, because they were looking for remote viewer spies and potentially gifted people who could telepathically operate UAF vehicles in their sleep. I'm not sure. I haven't really dived that far into that theory yet. But that's one of the theories that's out there. So anyways, I wanted to talk about the connection between our psychic abilities, drugs, and alcohol, and why we were experimented on. So let's go back to the fact that gifted kids, the psychically sensitive, were targeted. Let's also go back to the fact that the GATE program was supposedly an offset of some kind of MK Ultra experimentation that was done by the government to either single these psychic kids out or help them control their abilities, possibly to hire them in the future or distinguish their abilities altogether. And what's interesting about the program is that we seem to have two groups of people. We seem to have one group of people who is more compliant with authorities, and they got positions in the army, in the government, and other high class social situations and social leadership positions. And then we have another group of people who were traumatized. They were college dropouts. They had substance abuse issues in their 20s, most likely, and were labeled as neurodivergent. And what I shared in my last video is my experience with being part of the second group, meaning I had experiences with substance abuse and college dropout, and I did not know anything about my psychic gifts at the time, but I did have a lot of experiences as a kid with astral traveling, sleepwalking, potential connection with ETs. And when I was an adult and I got sober in my late 20s, all of those gifts started coming back, and I had no idea what to do with them, and I didn't even know what they were, because in my experience, psychic kids are something that you only see in movies. You saw the movie Matilda, you saw her moving pencils, and you're like, cool, I wish I could do that. But can anyone really do that in real life? No. Or can they? I don't know. Apparently, maybe they can, which is another reason I'm making this video, because going back to the fact that MK Ultra was potentially involved, I wanted to bring to your attention a very important article that I discovered about a year ago that is really alarming, if it's real or if it's based in any reality. And that is called the Illuminati, what's the article called? I'm gonna link it. Illuminati Formula for a Mind Control Slave. And in that article, it's like a 500 something page article, they talk about SRA. So if you don't know that word, that's a keyword right now. I don't want to get censored on the algorithm, but that is basically children who are, right? And I don't know if you can mouth read. Okay, I don't know if you understood me. But basically, there's some pretty intense stuff that it talks about in there. So it talks about fragmenting these kids' psyches. It talks about all of the organizations which are involved, which are some big names that you know about. And it talks about a lot of substances on there, and how substances, not only were they used in MK Ultra programming to induce different states in the subjects being tested, those are also used in mind control. So you have a second group of gate kids or gifted kids who most likely were the more rebellious ones, who did not respond well to authority, who were like, hey, I'm not going to drink that pink liquid, or they were asking too many questions, or they weren't very compliant with the adults, or maybe they were the really, really gifted ones. All of those people somehow ended up, or I can't say all, but a lot of them ended up with substance abuse issues after potentially being experimented on in a program. And let me give you one small example from the GATE program and the gifted program from what I personally remember. Oregon Trail, a seemingly innocent game that is just about getting your family to cross the trail of the wilderness into the promised land, or whatever it was about. But if you really dive deep into what that game was doing to us, it was taking very sensitive children who are very suggestible, especially gifted kids who are psychically sensitive, and this stuff has lasting impressions on their psyche. So from the age of 0 to 3, your mind is operating in primarily, I believe it's theta brainwaves, which is what our brainwave is in during meditation or sleep. And then from 3 to 7, it's after 7, which is alpha, right? So before the age of 7, we are still like sponges, just soaking up everything. And sorry if it wasn't theta, it's either delta or theta, but it's the brainwaves that your body goes into during sleep and meditation, and when your subconscious is easily programmed. So you're literally soaking up information like a sponge. So everything that you're absorbing in your education system is shaping your psyche. And when you play games like Oregon Trail, whose results were, you just died of dysentery, you couldn't get operated on because we didn't have medical care, the Indians came and attacked you, you died of cholera because there was no sanitation. But it's all these scenarios that are extremely frightening, especially for children. And it trains you to believe that the world is not a safe place. It trains you to believe that the world is not a safe place. Now, can you see the connection between a fragmented psyche, the just shoving it in your face how you should go get drunk on the weekends and you should consume MJ for your anxiety and it's legal now, and Corona with your friends and margaritas on Tuesday and mimosas on Sunday, and that is literally shoved in our faces, and you feel like a weird person if you don't want to drink. All of that is literally like blinding you, and it is putting a black veil over your psychic senses. Why do you think they call it a blackout, and why do you think they call it alcohol spirits? Alcohol is called spirits. It's an old word called alku. I can't remember if it's Hebrew or whatever, but you've probably seen that meme going around where alcohol is called spirits because it literally allows demons and negative entities to take control of your energy field, and they call it a blackout because your consciousness is not there, which means something else is driving your vehicle, your avatar. So my personal experience with psychic abilities and night terrors and sleep paralysis, when I was drinking like a normal teenager, like a normal 20-year-old who was going off to college, like a normal adult who had their 9-to-5 job that was going to happy hour, I was having terrifying experiences in the dreamland. I was having terrifying lucid dreams in the dreamland. I had an out-of-body experience and I went back to my body immediately because I felt 2 dark entities standing around me, and I was like, I need to get back to my body. And I never tried it again. Now, the odd thing, and the reason why I brought up my sobriety in my last video, is because when I got sober, all of these senses started to come back. But because during my sobriety journey, I just happened to stumble upon a book about ESP and how to train yourself to have it again, I was able to teach myself how to remote view, except I didn't know it was remote viewing because I didn't know what it was called. It was just teaching me to think of a coordinate, think of a person, and then somehow have the ability to know what they were thinking. And you could try these exercises with your friend. I didn't even have to do that until I started reading tarot cards, and then I started reading for people for free, and then realizing that everything I was saying was when I trusted my gut impressions, it was literally what they're going through. And then I started practicing remotely. So people who weren't even in the same state, people I'd never met, and they were my coordinate. And I was able to tell exactly what they were doing at that moment of the reading and what was going on and what they needed to focus on, what they needed to heal. So the interesting connection with that is that remote viewing is something that the gateway tapes supposedly taught you, and it's something I remembered right when I listened to them as an adult. I got like shivers all over my body hearing his voice and those beeps, and then putting yourself in a container. I remember that specifically. So I don't remember what I did during the gateway tapes. I don't remember how often we listened to them. I don't have any memory of that, but I know that as an adult, I like them because I like that hemisync technology. And now I'm in touch with my psychic abilities because I've learned how to manage my thoughts and feelings. So if you're part of the second gate group, and if you're struggling as an adult, if you've been labeled as neurodivergent, if you've been struggling with substance abuse, it's not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. There was a higher agenda here, very likely, more than likely, that was meant to fragment your psyche as a child through games like Oregon Trail and whatever the heck they were doing on us in childhood, which we don't remember. It was meant to fragment your psyche, prime your brain to feel anxiety and to believe that the world was not a safe place. So you took those feelings into adulthood, into the real world. You were trained to be compliant with adults and authority figures. And then society showed you how all the cool people are drinking, all the Hollywood actors are, all the influencers are, everybody's doing it, and you're weird if you don't do it. They don't teach you anything about developing your psychic gifts, unless they were in the program, I don't know. But for the most part, I was on my own in this. I was like a blind person trying to learn how to see and teach myself how to see. So all of that to say, it's not your fault that you were experimented on or that your psyche was fragmented. It's not your fault that you were gaslit your whole life and told that you're neurodivergent. So here's a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, okay? And I'm just speaking from my own experience, so don't hang the messenger. But you might find value in this if you're a person who has been down the road of seeing a lot of doctors and doing a lot of talk therapy and taking a lot of pills and trying different doses, and it's not working, and you're still depressed and you're still not living your life to the fullest and living up to your full potential, and you wonder why. I'm going to give you the golden key right now, which worked for me. If you're still drinking, even casually, you probably have no idea the effects that it's doing to the dark matter in your brain, what it's doing to your psyche. Alcohol is actually a depressant and makes you depressed, and it causes anxiety. So when you quit, you will find new clarity that you've never had in your life. Same goes with MJ. I know people are going to hang me for this, and I wanted to, not believe it too, because I was a fan of that myself. But if you want to tap it back into your psychic abilities, you have no idea what you're capable of. Probably, maybe you do. But if you're anything like me, you have no idea what you're capable of and what kind of gifts you actually have, because they have been watered down. They have been programmed out of you, and you've been programmed to believe that you're crazy and that something is wrong with you, right? Because if you're neurodivergent, you're different. Something's wrong with you. You have to be medicated for the rest of your life. You have to do talk therapy. That's the only thing that works. And you know what talk therapy does? In my experience, my personal experience, we talk about the same problems over and over again, which keeps your mind in a state where you're only focused on the problems. Again, keeping your mind in a lower vibrational state. So what happens when you're in a lower vibrational space? You attract lower vibrational entities. You have night terrors. You have negative experiences with dreaming and lucid dreaming. You're afraid to go to sleep. You can't sleep, so you're prescribed more medicine. A lot of those medicines actually may interfere with your sleep. And all the substances like caffeine also interfere with your sleep and can have you waking up at 3 or 4 in the morning thinking the worst case scenario thoughts that are anxious thoughts, because that's the time your liver is processing toxins, but it's all physiological from the substances that we're putting in our body. America runs on Dunkin', right? Everybody's always drinking coffee all day, every day. And then we go to happy hour. And then we've got all this food that is just pumped with and sprayed with chemicals and what's it called? Pesticides and preservatives and all these synthetic ingredients that we can't pronounce. And your gut health is linked to your brain health. So yes, you have a chemical imbalance because of all of those other factors I just mentioned. So, unless you're the anomaly who doesn't drink coffee, who eats a completely clean diet free of pesticides and preservatives and synthetic chemicals, then wow, you are really the exception there. But if you do any of the things that I mentioned, then it is my personal belief, I may be wrong, but there's nothing wrong with you. You're just the victim of a mass brainwashing. And if you're interested in getting your psychic power back, I would recommend A, stop drinking. B, if you can, limit your caffeine consumption at least only to 1 drink before noon so you can sleep at night. And I would try my dang near hardest to safely get off my medication with my doctor's help, but not before you look into books that teach you how to use your ESP. Books like Law of Attraction books, The Secret, other spiritual teachers who talk about the spirit world, who talk about how to get your psychic abilities back. And again, I'm not recommending anyone stops their medicine cold turkey. I'm just saying that in my experience, again, I was on and off of them for like 15 years. And I would never recommend anyone stop taking them because I had a really bad experience when I just stopped taking them cold turkey. But when I combined all those other things like sobriety, working with a mentor, having a solid group of friends, eating a cleaner diet, and reading metaphysical literature, law of attraction, filling my mind with positive things and positive affirmations and meditation. All of those things helped me get off my medication. So I was no longer a slave to them. And then to my doctor's surprise and my own surprise, I'm not depressed anymore. I'm not trying to myself anymore. I'm happy with my life. I have fulfilling relationships today, and I have some pretty cool psychic abilities, which are better than any high you could get from any chemical substance. So I will leave it at that. Let me know if anyone else has had the same experience, because I don't think a lot of people are talking about this. So, and all of that to say, if you haven't read that article I mentioned at the beginning, that is something that is absolutely connected to sobriety, to the gifted program, but not just the gifted program. This is potentially something that's been done to a lot more people than we realize, because that article also mentions TV shows and movies and things that our psyches have also been programmed with. So when you couple suggestions, something or someone programming you with substances that alter your brain's chemistry, with foods that continue to alter your anatomy and your endocrine system and all that stuff, that's a recipe for neurodivergence and not thinking clearly and struggling to make it through life, if you ask me. But I'm not a doctor, so you'll have to find and explore this journey on your own. And if you need support, I do have a Gate Kids support group, and I'm committed to helping other people regain their psychic senses back so they don't have to live as a depressed person anymore. And they can actually use their gifts to their advantage instead of being some weird government experiment that is literally trying to make you, I won't say the rest, but you know where I'm going with that. Thanks for watching.
If you're interested in supporting this channel, we hope that you'll consider purchasing from Statements by Alex. Today, we're showcasing our alien collection. Every piece from the collection features a unique, one-of-a-kind piece of jewelry made with real crystals or alien memorabilia to remind you that you are not alone in the dance.